Welcome back, everybody, to Toronto Today here on the Parlay. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, alongside my co-host, Michael Singh, and we are back on this Thursday to recap everything that went down last night. It was another historical night for Team Canada as they are so close from reaching Qatar. Their chances are like 99.9% at this point. We're also going to look ahead to the Raptors matchup tonight. They're going to have another massive matchup against Demar Derozan and his Chicago Bulls, so that's going to be a good one. But let's first talk about Team Canada, Mike. You have been all over this, and I know you are ecstatic as the next person over what we're witnessing, and that is Team Canada. They continue to get the job done. First win for Canada in El Salvador since 1996. That crazy goal to give them a 1-0 lead. When that stuff happens, you know you're a team of destiny. And then Jonathan David, man, what an extremely insane goal to put this game on ice. The way he was just able to cover the field, cover ground in the matter of seconds and score that goal. This team is truly remarkable to watch right now.
What a window it was for this Canadian men's national team. 9 points out of 9 points, which at the beginning of this window, if you asked me how many points I'd expect from Canada, I would have said something like 4, maybe 7 if they're fortunate, but they find a way to pick up 3 wins in 3 games, and they become now the first team since the final stage of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying was introduced in 1997 to win 6 straight games. So not only are they on the verge of qualifying for the World Cup, their first World Cup since 1986, they're doing so in historic fashion. I mean, we're talking about a Canada side that's gone unbeaten in their last 17 World Cup qualifying matches dating back to March of this year. It's surreal to actually say that out loud, because anyone who's followed this team in the past knows that was far from the case where Canada actually had a legitimate shot at qualifying, let alone doing it in this fashion. They remain undefeated through 11 of 14 games. They have 3 games left, and they're all against teams which Canada should handle fairly comfortably. So right now, it's, as you mentioned there, Luca, it's a good time for anyone in this country that's been a supporter of football, whether it's locally, whether it's internationally, because you're going to have your own country now to rep proudly come December at the 2022 World Cup in Qatar.
That's my biggest takeaway from all of this is the fact that they're unbeaten in 17 World Cup qualifying matches. That's insane from a country that was getting smoked not too long ago. And now they're looking like the class of this table, and they are on their way to Qatar, and they are playing extremely well. And this was all with their best player live streaming the game on Twitch. How big of a flex is that? You're winning these last couple of games against pretty decent opponents, and your best player's not even out there. This team, they're ready for this moment. And I said yesterday, Mike, on Twitter, Canada has always been deemed a hockey country. Man, it's starting to become a soccer country. This was in the works for many years, and now we're truly seeing it blossom before our very eyes. And you look at the table right now, it was said that 24 would be enough. They're at 25 points right now. So one more point, to my knowledge, they're officially in. But I think there's even a way they can get in without even winning the game. So they're officially, unofficially going to Qatar. And I feel like everybody's just soaking in these moments. It does feel too good to be true. Everybody's thinking to themselves, wow, I never thought I would see Canada in the World Cup in my lifetime. The last time was 1986. None of us were born. It's truly historical what we're witnessing. And I'm just enjoying every second of it, enjoying every minute of it. I remember seeing you at the game on Sunday, and you said exactly that. You're like, man, just taking these moments because we're truly seeing something that we never thought we would ever see. So this team is incredible to watch right now. And let's talk about Hutchinson too. What a goal that was. When you're good, you get lucky. And that was one of the most insane goals I had ever seen. And that's just an indicator of how many breaks Canada has caught during this run.
Yeah, and I think that goal kind of summarized the whole match for Canada. It was a gritty, grindy kind of, if you watch the team in the past going down to Central America, like these are the type of games you expect. If you're watching the game last night, you'll see anytime that Canada went to that one touchline in particular, you see water bottles or whatever being thrown at whoever's down there. Like these are the type of environments. And I think this was the first environment where you could really hear the crowd come through the television.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a full capacity crowd. And that's another thing I got to point out is Canada's caught some breaks here. I don't want to take anything away from them, but this isn't a real CONCACAF environment as a result of obviously the pandemic and everything. And you mentioned there that Hutchinson goal. I mean, as you mentioned off the bat, like that, if that doesn't sum up Team of Destiny, I don't know what else does. And it's so fitting that it was Atiba Hutchinson who scored the goal for Canada, the 38-year-old who turns 39 in less than a week. He's a guy who's seen it all for this men's national team. As we're here talking about the team's struggles in the past, this is a guy who lived it. He's been on the national team for like 20 years now. He's seen all of the lows. He experienced that 8-1 drubbing in Honduras. He's gone through it all, and for him to come full circle here and get a huge goal for Canada, albeit in absolutely hilarious fashion, that's so fitting for me. And I think it kind of adds to this amazing story that is this Canadian men's national team run. It seems like every time we're here, we're talking about a different player stepping up in a different light, in a different way. And it's so relatable. It's so easy for the fan base to get behind this group. And I think all aboard on the bandwagon, because it's going to be a fun ride to Qatar, man.
Let's talk about Jonathan David. He was an anytime goal at plus 175. He, of course, hit that to put this game on ice. That goal is just insane how he was able to cover up so much ground in the little amount of time that he took. And you look at his career, he will be moving on from Lille this summer to a big European club. While everybody talks about Davies on this team being the superstar, how good is Jonathan David and how good can he become? He's truly showing that he can hang with the best of them.
That's a good question, and I'll correct you slightly. It's Lille,
Leo.
and you're not alone in saying that. Trust me, I've heard that a million times. But the reason I corrected you there is because, man, people are gonna learn, because this guy is putting himself as a household name throughout Canada, and what he's done in the past year and a half is absolutely remarkable. He's won the Lille Player of the Month in League One, I think 4 straight months now. And he's outscored Mbappe, Messi, and Neymar combined this season. I believe that might still be the case. That was the case at least up until last month. And he's doing so in such a nonchalant type of way. That's his type of game. He showed over this window how he can adapt and play a couple of different styles against Honduras. He was getting in behind quite often. He was trying to stretch the back line. But against the US, he dropped in and played as more as like a number 10. Played as more as like a center attack in midfield instead of a striker. And he showed his versatility in terms of being able to keep possession and his hold-up play. And then against El Salvador, he kind of did it all. And of course, capped off with that breathtaking run in the injury time there to sort of seal the deal. As you mentioned, put the game in ice. Well, man, they call him the Iceman. And the reasoning is because this guy has ice in his veins, and you can tell by that finish he had. And that's why I was screaming it, man. Like Jonathan David, anytime goal scorer at plus 175, that's money. He's played 27 games for this men's national team since joining the senior club in 2018. He has 20 goals. That's I don't say that lightly. That's outstanding, especially considering that before this sort of qualifying campaign, the highest ever men's national team goal scorer all time, Dwayne De Rosario, he had 23 goals in his whole career. Jonathan David's almost matched that in 3-4 years, including a pandemic burden year. So this guy's a goal scorer like we've never seen before. And how good can he be? How good is he going to be? I mean, this guy's going to be transferred for 60, 70, 80 million dollars come the summer. And not only is he going to be transferred for that amount, but he's going to be going to a very big club. All the big clubs in the world are rumored to be on this guy right now. And it's crazy that he's a Canadian striker that we're talking about. He could be the third, second best up and coming young striker in the entire world.
Wow.
So it's just a good time right now to be a Canadian men's national team supporter. It's a good time to be part of that national team program. And it's a good time to just enjoy watching Jonathan David play the beautiful game for our country.
What about the Canadian FIFA ranking now? It's said that they are headed for their highest rank following these last couple of games. Where do you see them ranking after all this?
Yeah, that's a great shout. And they will absolutely be their highest rank in Canadian men's national team history come the end of this. There are 40 heading into the start of this window. They picked up three important wins, including a win against the United States, who is close to a top 10 nation in the world. So I'd expect them to come in around 30, 31, 32, at least move up a significant jump. And we start thinking ahead here now, and let's talk legitimately about them being in Qatar. Who's to say that this team can't go out there and get a win, get two wins at the FIFA World Cup come Qatar? Like that's what this team's ambition is. John Herdman came out and said that they have loftier ambitions than beyond just qualifying for the World Cup. And right now, I mean, the way that they're playing, they're going to be the story of the World Cup,
Yeah.
and all eyes are going to be on Canada, and that's just such a great. Um, it's going to have such a great effect, a great trickle down effect for the game in this country. We still need a professional women's league. We still need a professional women's team, really, in this country, and that's off the heels of Canada winning Olympic gold. So with Canada's men's team qualifying for the World Cup, I think that trickle down effect will help the women get some foundation here and get some infrastructure, because obviously money talks and a lot of money's in the men's World Cup. So it's great all around for everyone who plays the game and supporter of the game in this country.
That's a good point you brought up. I feel like the conversation now has switched from if Canada's going to make it or what are their odds of making it to what can they do on the actual big stage? Can this team actually pick up a win? And I had a buddy reach out to me and he asked me, how do you see this team faring? I said, obviously, it's going to come down to what their group is and what their draw is like. But this is a team with the way they're playing right now. I would not be surprised, Mike, if they do pick up at least a victory and be competitive in all three of their matches and possibly make some noise in terms of getting out of this thing. But I think at the very least, they have a strong showing. And then that 2026 outing, that could be the breakout year that really puts this nation amongst some of the best
On home soil, baby. On home
on home soil.
soil. Exactly. And yeah, man, like I think everyone, when we started this World Cup qualifying campaign, everyone was looking ahead to 2026 because Canada had the automatic qualification as a host country. No one really expected 2022 to be like this. At least no one on the outside. I'm sure John Herdman had plans of something along these lines, but they're fast tracking it. And let me tell you, I mentioned that trickle down effect. It's having a trickle down effect on a team like Toronto FC, who want to capitalize on sort of the buzz in this country and become the biggest local team, biggest club team in Canada. And after the season they had last year, they're doing everything that they can to get back on track to really capture this momentum. It's having an enormous commercial value to what the sport is in this country. And I can't say enough about what we're witnessing here. It's really unprecedented. And I'm kind of trying to take it all in stride and see how this plays out. But it's bigger than I think anyone really ever could have imagined.
Yeah, this is from a sporting level. You look at the Toronto sports landscape, this triumphs that, in my opinion. We have truly never seen this. So, like you said, it's hard to contain your emotions when you are witnessing something so special. So, Canada's next match, I believe, will be towards the end of March, March 24th, around
March
what?
24th, you're bang
Yeah.
on. Where's Costa Rica? In Costa Rica. And that'll be their first shot at qualifying, officially booking their ticket. The magic number is actually 2 points to officially qualify. So whether Panama drops 2 points in their last nine or Canada picks up a win or two draws, then Canada will officially book their ticket to Qatar 2022. And again, based on the schedule that they have, that's all but a foregone conclusion.
Amazing times indeed. All right, we can go on and on about Team Canada and their success, but we do got a basketball game to cover tonight, and that is the Raptors taking on the Chicago Bulls. Demar Derozan will be taking on his former team yet again. And the Raptors, they are the favorites in this one, -3.5. Are you surprised by this line of Vegas giving the Raptors their respect here against a really good opponent?
Very surprised. I woke up. I'm like, are you sure it isn't 3.5 the other way?
Yeah.
It's hey, as we've talked about on this show for a very long time, the Raptors are typically a very good value bet. They usually get some favorable odds. We know how competitive this team has been, but dang man, against a first place Chicago Bulls team, Zach Levine is probable to go tonight. I know his status was in doubt, but I just checked and he is probable for tonight. So they're just missing Alex Caruso and Lonzo Ball mainly.
Yeah.
And DeMar DeRozan always has a chip on his shoulder when you're playing the Toronto Raptors. And it's gonna the one thing that's kind of swaying in the Raptors' favor is kind of their record against the Bulls when the teams are the favorites. So the favorites have won each of the last 17 games between the Bulls and the Raptors. And then also the Bulls are just 6-11 this season as the underdog, while the Raptors are 15-7 as the favorites. That being said, like I know that kind of tells you to kind of lean Raptors, but I have a hard time doing that against a very good Bulls team.
Yeah, I agree. When I looked at this line, I did have to double glance at it. I thought it was a typo too. I thought I was reading Bulls are favorite, but this just goes to show people are starting to recognize how good this Raptors team is. And this is a huge statement line. You're talking about going up against a Bulls team that has played like the best team in the East. They do have their big three intact, and they have done so many great things this season. And the Raptors are being favored against them. That's that's some respect. That's the ultimate respect, in my opinion. What I'm also surprised about is that Gary Trent Jr.'s player prop is only 19.5. Have
Yeah.
they not been watching these games? And I don't want to mush him in any way, but how can you not take that over? Looking at his last couple of games, he has a chance to break the Rosen's record against DeMar DeRozan. You don't think he's going to have some extra pep in his step knowing that? And he's just been cold blooded. He literally on and off the court has been just entertaining to watch. He did a post game interview, and that was one of my favorite videos ever, where he was literally standing still to the point where the reporter thought they were frozen. But that's just Gary being Gary. I think he's going to have another fantastic game. I really do. And he's been getting a ton of buzz around the league. An anonymous GM, I believe, went out and said that Gary Trent Jr. is better than a lot of the elite guards in the league, and he would put him in the same conversation as Donovan Mitchell. And I forgot the other player that was mentioned, but this is a player in Gary Trent Jr. who he is getting so much league-wide attention, and in turn, that is bringing that same type of attention to these Toronto Raptors. So it's going to be an amazing game. The Raptors have not looked bad in what feels like a while. At the very least, they're going to be in this game. This is going to go down to the wire. But I got to agree with you, Mike. I'm not sure I'm ready to take the Raptors -3.5 against the Bulls. DeMar DeRozan is going to be the X factor, and you already mentioned it. Whenever he plays this team, he has that chip on his shoulder, and he usually goes off. You can count on DeRozan going off, which is why his player prop over under is 25.5. If Gary gets 30 again, odds are DeRozan is going to have 32. This could be a battle tonight between these guards, and I think there's some good value with the Bulls being an underdog here. I really do.
Yeah, and maybe it pains me a little bit to say, but just circling back to Gary Trent Jr. and just throwing a little hard numbers at everyone who doesn't already know, but this guy has scored over 31 points in each of the Raptors' last 5 games. He's 130-point performance shy of setting that franchise record that Luca was talking about for consecutive 30-point games, set in 2016 by none other, of course, than DeMar DeRozan. Gary Trent Jr. is playing elite level of basketball, and I think we can talk about him knocking down his own shots, him doing a lot of different things on the offensive end. But what often gets overlooked is how good he has developed defensively. Sure, it's kind of high risk, high reward, but this guy's racking up the steals right now,
Yeah.
and he's not giving anyone space on the perimeter, and he's turned into a complete basketball player right now, and it's another great contract signed by Masai Ujiri. He has him at 17.6 million now and next season. Of course, there's a player option the year after that, which at this point we're all expecting Gary Trent Jr. to opt out of.
Yeah.
But regardless, still really great value you're getting from someone like a Gary Trent Jr., which is why, again, this core, you got to capitalize on it because Siakam's in his prime, Fred VanVleet's in his prime, Gary Trent Jr. is playing like an absolute stud. You have pieces like OG and Scotty Barnes who are just getting better and better on a nightly basis. You add to this team, and they're a serious threat. Although I'm not sure they will be a threat tonight against the Chicago Bulls. We'll kind of see how that plays out. And one other, just yeah, quickly, I'm going to take that Gary Trent Jr. player prop all day. And one other player prop I want to highlight quickly is DeMar DeRozan. It's at 25.5 points right now. Now, DeMar DeRozan scored 29 points in 6 of his last 7 appearances, at least 29 points. And he's playing the Raptors tonight. So you know he's going to try and get his. It always, like we've mentioned a couple times already, this guy loves playing Toronto. And I wouldn't be surprised if he has another stellar game tonight for the Bulls against his former team. So that's another player prop I really like there. But I would stay away from this game on the spread just because I'm not sure which way it honestly goes.
Very quick, I want to touch on something you said, which is interesting. I think Masai knows this window isn't as big as what many people think, and maybe he is going to be ultra aggressive come next week because, yeah, you look at Gary Trent Jr. and when his contract expires, he's going to be demanding the bag, especially if he
Yeah.
continues this type of pace. So in essence, are the Raptors going to be able to keep all of Gary Trent Jr., Siakam, Van Vliet, and OG? They already got a ton of money tied to those three. I don't think so. So you really got to capitalize on winning with Gary Trent Jr. now that you do have them on this very lenient type contract. Because if you don't, you're going to have some major decisions to make down the line. Gary Trent Jr., yeah, I do think he's going to become something big. I don't think this is just a flash in the pan. I've always been high on this kid. I was very high on the trade when it first happened, when they traded Norman Powell for a younger player who I felt was already as good as Powell, and now we're seeing him take that next step. So the Raptors got to capitalize on this now, and maybe Masai Ujiri recognizes that, and that's why there are reports that the Raptors are looking to make a big move and looking to be buyers.
Well, here's the thing, Luca. This is the interesting scenario with Gary Trent Jr. is he's definitely going to get more money come 2020, 2023, 2024, whenever he decides to opt out, if he continues playing at this level. But, or even like slightly below this level, he's still going to get more money. But do you believe that Gary Trent Jr. is close to a max contract player? Because that's kind of the money he's going to be demanding. You're talking about like Fred VanVleet money, maybe even slightly more.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that you can win with that piece, is there a possibility come the summer, you package Gary Trent Jr. to bring in a bona fide superstar? Bradley Beal. Once again, I'll bring up someone like that. Is that something that's a potential right now? And I think Masai's got to be thinking about that because he's always 2 steps ahead. And as you mentioned there, that contract's going to be a difficult one to handle. So if you don't believe that you can actually win with Gary Trent Jr. as one of your core pieces, or your core is just not good enough right now to take you over that hump, maybe you flip Gary Trent Jr. into something that's a lot better right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of where my head's at with this entire situation.
No, that's a good point, and I think time will tell. Masai's gonna make the moves necessary, see if this team can compete, how they compete this season, and if they are still significantly short of their mark, you can see a deal happening this offseason, and that deal could be capitalizing on Gary Trent Jr.'s value now that you have him still under contract versus potentially losing him outright and not wanting to pay him close to what could be max money if he continues this type of trajectory. Now, it's tough to say how much better is he going to get. Of course, we just got to wait and see. But, I mean, the level that he's playing now, if he keeps that up, why couldn't he demand the same type of money as a Fred VanVleet? He's really playing at that level right now, and he's doing it on both ends, which is truly special. And he's been one of the best Raptors players during this run. He's been that guy to get him out of slumps. He's been able to shoot the Raptors back into games. You mentioned him tallying up all these steals, and he's been doing it defensively since day one of the season. You saw it right when the season started. Gary Trent Jr. has elevated his game defensively just with his motor, the way he was able to track down, the person he was guarding, track down loose balls, making plays. You knew this was going to be a different type of season for Gary Trent Jr., and he had leveled up. And right now we're seeing that. So he's definitely going to get paid. And yeah, Masai's going to have some major decisions to make. But first, let's see how they do over the next couple of months
Well,
on their way to possibly contending.
yeah, you mentioned him getting better there, Luca, and we don't know how much better he's getting. Like I'm shocked every time I look this up. But do you know how old Gary Trent Jr. is?
Yeah, I believe he's 22, just turned 23.
Just turned 23 years
Yeah.
old.
It's insane, man. Yeah, people forget how young this guy is.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that all the way. I mean, this guy
Yeah.
plays like he's 27, 28.
Yeah.
And to think about this could be just like the tip of the iceberg in terms of how good he can get. I mean, that part's exciting. Like you have to be excited. And I mentioned there Masai signing a good contract. Well, Gary Trent Jr. also signed a pretty dang good contract because he can get free when he's 25 years old and then really cash in because the way he's playing right now, his trajectory, that'll be the case. So as you mentioned, the Raptors window isn't as big as we might think it is. Maybe there's some moves they can make to make it expand that window, but let's see if they can take advantage this year and then we'll go from there.
Yep. It's good times all around. I was just realizing this the other day. Toronto sports teams are getting it done, and obviously Team Canada, just an overall good time. And let's hope this buzz continues. All right, let's get to our best bet of the night. Mike, you're catching up to me, man. 11-8 all of a sudden. Let's see if you can get another winner here.
Five in a row, man. I'm doing really well right now, and like I said, ever since I changed to betting on exactly what I know for sure, which is Toronto sports or Canadian sports, I've been hitting pretty well. Like I think dating back to when I started betting on tennis, I'm like I want to say something like 7-1, some 7-2 maybe. So I'm on a little bit of a heater right now, and I'm gonna keep that going with the Toronto sports team. As I mentioned with the Raptors here, I'm not too confident about that spread. I think that's a little bit too generous for the Bulls. So I'm going to stay away from the actual spread, but I do like a player prop as we touched on. It's a guy we've been talking about for like the last 20 minutes. It's Gary Trent Jr. I'm going to take that over 19 and a half points at minus 125. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is, if we're back here tomorrow talking about Gary Trent Jr. absolutely just breaking Demar Derozan's record. So smash that over.
All right, my pick's going to be interesting. I'm going the other way. I'm going with another player prop in this game. I'm going with Demar Derozan against his old team. I like that. 25 and a half. He's hit that. You mentioned that, eight of his last 9 games. This guy's rolling right now. And mix that with the fact that he is going to be going up against his former team. And he knows that the other guy in Gary Trent Jr. has a chance to break his Raptor record. That's not going to sit well for DeRozan. I like DeRozan big tonight. I think this is going to be another one of those revenge type games where DeMar, we can see him take over in the fourth quarter. So I like that. 25 and a half. I'm laying over all day with that number.
Luke, is that an audible that you pulled? Is that your first ever audible here on the show? Because I see something different in the rundown there.
I did pull an audible. Mike is exposing me. But yes, I will admit, I did pull an audible. Once you brought to my attention that DeRozan over under, it was too good to pass up on. Originally, I did have my eyes on something else, but I'm going with this Toronto Raptors game, but with the Chicago Bulls player.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I absolutely cannot blame you for that whatsoever. DeMar DeRozan is playing like close to an MVP right now. That over 25 and a half I see here is at minus 135. So it's not the greatest odds, but that's because he's pretty much a sure thing to get that nowadays, especially when going up against the Raptors. So
yeah,
again, Luca, continue that hot streak, and we'll hopefully be back talking about this exactly tomorrow. Or you're not going to be here tomorrow on tomorrow's show. We got a surprise substitute, so stay tuned for that one. Yeah. But Monday we'll reconvene, and hopefully by then I can talk about being near even with you.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to have an opportunity tomorrow to make up some ground. I will not be on this show. I believe Albert will be stepping in. So yeah, stay tuned for that, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. You can catch this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us all over social media, and we will catch you all again, Mike and I, on Monday. This is Luca and Mike signing off. Toronto Today here on the Parlay. Thanks for watching.